Crystal Howard and Mr. Ryan Howard.
Beautiful school, and it sounds like you have some amazing teachers, and we just met your principal, and she seems lovely. So we can't thank you enough for inviting us to your school. So we're here today.
Hi guys.
Just about everyone in here. So we created Little Rhino is our main character, and his real name is Ryan. But his nickname is Little Rhino, and all of his friends and his family calls him Little Rhino, and his teacher is the only one that calls him Rhino. But the characters in our stories, the characters have to go through problems, and they have to find solutions on how to deal with their problems, just like you guys do, and just like us as adults have to face every day. So we wanted to give our readers an opportunity to learn how to deal with some of those problems and situations that they face. I'm sure all of you can relate to that. But also, I'm sure you've heard some of these words before, like the word respect and responsibility and showing effort. So those are all things that our characters in our stories have to face and have to learn. So I'm going to ask Ryan here what some of those words mean to him. So let's see. What does it mean to be honest?
Oh, we've got. Well, the question was directed to me, but I love the participation. To me, to be honest is, and I'm sure with a lot of you guys, is telling the truth, right? Right. So you have to always be honest, and you have to always tell the truth, because you never want to lie, because that kind of stuff just stays with you, and it's not good. It's not nice. We want to be nice people today, don't we? We want to be nice to everybody. So we were nice by respecting and being honest with everybody. Don't lie. No lies. Everybody say no lies. No lies.
And what does it mean to show effort? And what does it mean to show effort in school? And what does it mean to show effort when you're playing a sport or maybe?
To me, showing effort is giving the best that you have. For if it's doing homework, if it's playing a sport, for me, baseball, if I'm practicing, if it's reading a book. So everything that you do, you always want to put your best foot forward, and you always want to do the best that you can with whatever it is that you're doing.
Responsibility. Who's heard that word before? It is very important to be responsible. What does that mean? What does that mean?
To me, responsibility is basically taking care of everything that I need to take care of. So for me, preparing for a baseball game, I'll just use that as an example. You know, it's kind of one of these things that I do. But making sure that I have all my equipment, making sure I have my shoes, my bat, my glove, making sure I look at the scouting report on whatever the pitcher is, know where I need to be on defense, and taking care of everything that I need to take care of. So for me, that's being responsible.
What about when you were in elementary school? What did that mean?
For me in elementary school, it meant not getting dirty, doing my work, and eating lunch. That was my You guys can relate to that, right?
And the last word we're going to touch on today, that little rhino in our story, he has to learn, and his teammates have to learn, and that we've all learned or are learning is how to be respectful. And what does that mean to be respectful?
Being respectful is, again, being nice to your neighbors, being nice to your teachers, being nice to everybody that you come in contact with. For all differences and all different backgrounds and everything, we want to always respect people for who they are and always want to be nice to other people.
Do you think you did a good job of answering my questions?
Thanks, guys.
So when Ryan was growing up, it was a rule in his house that books had to come first and baseball had to come second. How many of you, by show of hands, when you get home from school, the first thing you have to do before you go outside and play or watch TV is do your homework? Well, that was a rule in Ryan's household growing up as well, and he'll explain a little bit about what that was like and why it was so important.
To me, well, growing up, education was very, and still is very, very important. And I wasn't allowed, like everybody in here, it looked like raised their hands, to go out and play with my friends or go to baseball practice or basketball practice or do anything if my schoolwork wasn't finished and finished correctly. So my parents were very strict on that. So I couldn't go to practice, couldn't go to games, couldn't do anything unless my homework was done and done correctly.
So one of our favorite things to do when we were your age was to find a good book and find a really cool spot in our house or outside and open the book, up the book, and get lost in the stories. And when we read, we use our imagination, because not every book has illustrations. So we have to think about what the characters look like, what problems they face, and how to solve those problems. And we use our imagination to make the story come alive. So what we want to do here with you today is we're going to read a chapter in our first book, My New Team. We're going to read chapter 1, and we're going to make this story come alive. Does that sound like fun? We're going to need some participation from all of you, and we're also going to need to pick a little rhino. He's the main character in our story. And then we also need a Dylan. Now Dylan is a character in the story, and he's not the nicest student, and he's not the nicest teammate. And little Rhino has to face Dylan in different situations and learn how to deal with Dylan the bully. So, we picked a Dylan to help us today, and his name is David Buchanan, one of Ryan's teammates. So let's give him a round of applause. Of Dylan. Ryan is going to play the part of Grandpa James. And Grandpa James... I know, it's silly. I think it's silly too. Grandpa James. And then I'm going to be the narrator. Rhino. And we heard from some of the teachers here that
Ryan Haas.
would be a great little rhino. Can we welcome them up here?
Is Ryan?
Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, so while Ryan is going to explain to Ryan what his part is, I'm going to explain to you how you guys are going to help make this story come alive as well. How many of you have been to a Major League Baseball game, show of hands, or a baseball game in general? Well, we all know that there's a crowd and there's stands, so you guys are going to be the fans, and you guys are going to be the crowd at a Major League Baseball game. So we're going to practice. Now, I don't think that we scream at a baseball game, but we definitely don't whisper at a baseball game. We cheer and we clap, and who can give an example of that, of what it sounds like at a baseball game? Yep, you right there. Show me. Show me what it looks like. You want to clap? Let's help them out. So you guys are going to get some cues from me. So when I go like this, as I'm reading, that's when I want to hear you guys. So and then when I go like this, that's when all of you boys and girls are going to stop cheering and stop woo-hooing. Let's practice, okay? Ready? Good, let's try that again. So as soon as I go like this, the crowd is going to stop cheering. And as soon as when I go like this, that's when you guys are cheering, okay? Let's try again, ready? Perfect. Let's check in with our characters and see if they're ready. They are ready. Okay, so we have some props for Little Rhino. When you're practicing baseball, you usually wear a baseball hat. So let's do that. We have Grandpa James, Little Rhino, and Dylan. Little Rhino stepped up to home plate. He gripped the bat tight. The breeze in the treetops sounded like the crowd at a Major League Baseball game. He imagined that the bases were loaded. Hit this one out of the park, he told himself. Rhino glared at the pitcher. Here came the ball. With a hard, steady swing, Rhino connected. The smack of the bat against the ball sent a thrill through his body.
Nice hit,
Said Grandpa James with a smile. Rhino smiled back. He dropped the bat and watched as the ball flew over the tall hedge. He hit it out of the backyard. Rhino had never hit one that far before. Grandpa pitched to Rhino every day after Rhino's homework was done. Books first, baseball second was the rule in their house. Rhino always raced home from third grade, had a snack, and did his work. Then he changed into shorts and an oversized jersey, grabbed his bat and glove, and met Grandpa in the yard.
you're really hitting him now, Rhino.
Grandpa said. Rhino's real name was Ryan, but everyone except his teachers used his nickname.
Better get that ball before it rolls all the way down to Main Street.
Rhino laughed. He knew the ball hadn't gone that far. It was just a plastic one, not like the real Major League Baseball they used for playing catch. He'd hit with a plastic one because a real one might break a window. That would be bad. Rhino trotted out of the yard. He stopped cold when he saw Dylan on the other side of the street. Dylan was tall and thin and always looked mean. He was holding Rhino's ball.
Looking for this?
Dylan said with a sneer.
Come and get it, man.
Rhino gulped. Dylan was the meanest kid in third grade. He teased everyone and often got into fights. Dylan acts tough, but he's not, Rhino's thinker said. Grandpa James would always point to his head and say,
Your thinker is to think things you can't say out loud.
Still, Dylan was bigger than Rhino. He was always sneering, his glasses sitting crooked on his face, and his stiff blonde hair stood up on his head, making him look even taller.
Pull over.
Dylan said.
Come get your baby ball.
Rhino looked back. The leafy hedge blocked Grandpa's view. Rhino couldn't return to the backyard without the ball. He swallowed hard and walked across the street. Rhino reached for the ball, but Dylan held out his hand and pulled it away. Rhino reached again. Dylan twisted and waved the ball over his head.
Give me that ball.
Rhino said inside his head. His thinker added, You big bully. Dylan held the ball out again.
Take it.
He said. Rhino put his hand on the ball. Dylan wouldn't let go.
Let me have it.
Rhino said, This is why you have zero friends, Dylan, he thought. You're nothing but a big mouth bully.
Just take it.
Dylan said, but he gripped the ball harder. Rhino frowned and squinted his brown eyes. He pulled the ball, but Dylan just laughed. He was stronger than Rhino. Rhino heard Grandpa's voice from the yard.
Rhino,
He said,
is everything all right?
Dylan looked surprised when he heard Rhino's grandfather. He yanked the ball away and threw it at Rhino. It hit Rhino's chest and fell to the street. Rhino scooped it up. Dylan was walking away fast. Rhino had never seen Dylan back down from something before. He didn't look back. Rhino stepped into the yard. Grandpa James had come closer to the hedge. He raised his bushy eyebrows, but didn't say anything. Rhino felt shaky. He didn't like uncomfortable situations. If Grandpa hadn't been there, Dylan might have started a fight, or he might have kept the ball.
Ready to hit some more?
Grandpa said. He gripped an imaginary bat, flexing his arm muscles and making a powerful swing. Grandpa had always been very fit and athletic. Rhino slowly walked back over to Grandpa.
I think I've got enough for today.
He said softly.
Really?
Grandpa asked.
You usually want to hit until it gets dark out.
Rhino shrugged.
I guess I'm too tired.
He felt embarrassed because Dylan had picked on him and Rhino didn't get a chance to stand up for himself. He had to let his thinker do all of his arguing, and then his grandfather showed up. Grandpa James probably heard the whole thing. Grandpa put his hand on Rhino's shoulder.
3 seconds.
He said, Grandpa had taught Rhino the 3-second rule. When you're angry or feeling bad about yourself, take 3 seconds to be upset. Then remember how great you are. Rhino let his shoulders drop. He blew out his breath.
Let's do some throwing.
Grandpa said. He picked up a hard ball and watched Rhino grab his glove off the lawn.
Sounds good.
Rhino said. After a few throws, he felt better. Grandpa tossed the ball high in the air. Pop flies like those were the hardest ones for Rhino to catch. The daylight was fading. Rhino set himself under the ball and watched it as it reached its highest point. The ball seemed to hang in midair for a second, then it dropped. Rhino made the catch.
Nice one.
Grandpa said. Last month, when they started practicing baseball, Rhino almost never caught a pop fly. Now he grabbed them every time.
You've made a lot of progress.
Grandpa said.
Everything takes time and practice. Catching pop-ups, hitting the ball.
Rhino nodded. Then he remembered the clash with Dylan. He stared toward the hedge and replayed the conflict. I should have told him to get lost, he thought.
Everything takes time, little Rhino.
Grandpa said again.
Even dealing with the bully.
All right, round